The 2010 and 2011 flood disasters in Lagos State were unprecedented. The intense rains and associated floods presented Lagosians more than ever with the drastic impact of climate change.
Always a range of acceptability, but I'll tell you that we are beginning to really experience this changing global climatic pattern. And at the local level, we are beginning to see changes in the dates of the onset and cessation of the rainy season. And that equally affects the dates of the onset of the growing season and the extent of the growing season. So it has impacted on us locally as well, because what we used to know as the onset of the growing period and the cessation of the growing period has kind of changed a little, and little changes when it comes to agricultural production impact heavily on the economy.
The havoc of the weather events like fuel to fire boosted the tempo of the state government to better manage torrential rains and floodings. Drainage channels and canals were cleared and expanded, new ones built, and some structures on drainage routes demolished.
The emancipation of this canal now has been engulfing those kind of water that have been coming in, thereby it's declining. You understand? We also give credence to government.
The efforts of the state government paid off. In 2012, while floods ravaged many states in the nation, Lagos had minimal challenges.
They took a lot of effort in terms of public education, in terms of clearing the drainage, in terms of public enlightenment, and in terms of putting the necessary enabling law in place to really guide the people as to how they should deal with their environment.
The success achieved, however, some Lagosians say was not improved upon. Residents of some flood-prone areas insist that their tales of woes have been as perennial as the rains.
The drainage is here, but it's not working. Let them fix it.
Something to write home about. They should please tell our government to assist us.
It seems like there's no drainage at all. You know, everywhere is just blocked. You know, even while I was coming, I tried to maneuver, but you know, I still couldn't avoid it. It's just hell. I know the government is trying its best, but you know, I think they need to do more than their best.
As structures on drainage channels are pulled down by relevant authorities, new ones strangely surface. This scenario, experts say, makes town planning, regulation and enforcement in the state questionable. The rainy season, experts say, exposes loopholes in urban and town planning. Many Nigerians are rather oblivious or seemingly ignore land use plan of areas where they build their houses. Those in coastal areas are often faced with double calamity. This is because flash floods from rains are usually aggravated by ocean surge. Some streets in Okunwafa, Ologolo, Igboefun villages and Jakonde estates, among others, have also become unpassable to both motorists and pedestrians. Eroding coastlines, flooding, desertification, sea level rise, intense rainfall, higher temperature and erosion, among others, are some of the impact of global warming affecting Nigeria and nations around the world. Efforts to check the rise in global temperature, especially as a result of the release of harmful gases called greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, led to the coming together of nations around the world under the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. Series of negotiations, protocols and conventions have already been created, but are they making the needed impacts?
The work started with the Climate Change Convention, which was found to be inadequate, to reduce the greenhouse gases or to mitigate climate change. And then the Kyoto Protocol came. And of course, at a point in time, Kyoto Protocol was almost gone. We were not going to have, the second commitment period. But the long and short story of it is that these two treaties have been found not to be adequate to reduce the emission of greenhouse gases. And apart from that, the fact that some big emitters like the United States of America did not participate in the Kyoto Protocol, and again is another major setback to the protocol. Again, when you are talking of developing country, there are some emerging economies within the developing country, like China, Brazil, India, South Africa, and so on. And they are also, having a greater volume of emission into the atmosphere, especially China. When you are looking at China, China is the biggest emitter when you are talking of gross emission. But when you are talking of per capita emission, their emission becomes very low, and this is why they are still being referred to as developing country. So, at the point of discovering that we are not likely to achieve what we want to achieve, then the the Conference of Parties has to call everybody back to the table, back to the drawing board. What can we do? Then that was how the negotiation of the agreement we are looking forward to evolved.
Countries across the globe are committed to creating a new international climate change agreement by the conclusion of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change Conference of Parties, COP21 in Paris in December 2015.
Intended nationally determined contribution is the amount of mitigation as well as adaptation activities that a country or that Nigeria is ready to undertake within the context of the potential agreement we are expecting in Paris come, December 2015. In terms of mitigation, how much of, greenhouse gases we can reduce, how much of adaptation activities we can undertake, within the context of the potential agreement we're expecting in Paris. That is what we call intended nationally determined contribution. It is going to be determined by each and individual party.
Nigeria, through the Federal Ministry of Environment and its development partner, the United Nations Development Programme UNDP, has commenced a series of stakeholders' technical meetings and activities aimed at coming up with its intended nationally determined contributions. This the nation will submit to the United Nations climate body well ahead of the 21st session of the Conference of Parties COP21, where a new treaty will be adopted in Paris.
Nigeria is a signatory to the Convention on Climate Change, and so UNDP has been working with them to enable informed actions and contributions to their obligations to the Convention. Doing that, we also mean that Nigeria will be seen as complying with the outcome of the last summit and help to position Nigeria favorably to benefit from potential support that the INDC hopefully will be opening up to countries that submit the INDC.
The process of determining it is what has taken the submission this long because of lack of understanding of what to do at the initial stage, what are supposed to be the content of INDC, and how do we communicate it to the UNFCCC, and in what format are we going to communicate it? Because of lack of understanding, or because of trying to explain, trying to give clarity about the process, that is why it has taken this long.
The intended nationally determined contribution will largely determine whether the world achieves an ambitious 2015 agreement and is put on a path towards a low-carbon, climate-resilient future.